Welcome to the unknown past. In today's video, I'll be discussing the history of Hayreddin Barbarossa, who was an Ottoman consul and later on an admiral of the Ottoman Navy. Let's begin with the pirates, as they're both legends and myths, and in history they're both romanticized and villainized. But once people hear the term pirates, they seem that they are thieves, as throughout the history of pirates are well known as capturing gold, as you have may watched the movie The Pirates of the Caribbean. Moreover, the economic warfare on sea engaged under the world's powerful leaders and in history, and nothing comes close to the Barbary pirates, especially the standards of economic warfare. During the 16th century, the Ottoman Empire came into dominance from the North African ports of Tripoli, Tunis, and of course Algeria, under Hayreddin Barbarossa. He lived during the reign of Sultan Selim I and the great Suleiman the Magnificent. Barbarossa is famously known for the naval victories secured for the Ottoman naval dominance. However, many can argue, as Henry Morgan, Captain King, and many others, must be the greatest pirates that ever lived. But I counter differ, as Barbarossa was the greatest pirate to ever lived, as he changed Europe, and if it wasn't for him, history must be so different and the Muslim world would be in danger. As the Barbary pirates was the awakening point of Europe, as one after another of ships being captured by the Ottoman Empire, as they captured them during wars, and of course approximately over 1 million of enemy pirates, as they became slaves, of course under the Ottoman rule, where they used them to rebuild ships and restore supplies in the ships, also controlling the galleons ships, where they basically row a wooden stick into the water, leading the ship to move. As that particular time engines didn't exist, and they had to have alternative ways to travel and pick up speed by using galleons. Furthermore, this conflict of Muslims and European Christians dates years upon years back to 7th or 8th century AD, as the death of Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, awoken his successors to build a mighty empire that was spread to endless seas. And if you see my previous content before, you will know every empire has a beginning, forged to blood, steel, fortune, and conquest. As one empire to rise, another must fall. And the people of Islam created a caliphate 3 times bigger than the Roman Empire, and was the most rapid increasing empire during that period. And the Christians sent out many crusades upon the Muslim world. If you want, I can make a video or series about each crusades and the effect on long-term and short-term effects of them for the Holy Land. And after many centuries after, the last Islamic empire was risen, which is known as the Ottoman Empire, which lasted for over 600 years and ended in the 20th century. And during the reign of the Ottoman Empire in 1453, under Sultan Mehmed II, he conquered the Byzantine Empire city, Constantinople, which I already made a video about this, so link in the description if you want to watch it. So because of this advantage of conquering the city, it gave an upper hand for the Ottoman Empire and beneficial standing for the next generation sultans of the state, where now we talk about the great Suleiman the Magnificent and his great admiral, who was Hayreddin Barbarossa. He was nicknamed Khizr by the Sultan, and he lived from 1476 to 1546. He was the youngest out of 4 brothers named Barbarossa, as in history all 4 brothers had red beards, and in Italian it means red beards, thus giving the name. Moving on, when he grew up, he started trading between Lesbos, which is a place in Greece, with his ship, which was inherited from his youth, as his father was an Ottoman warrior of Albanian descent, who had been granted land and vast amounts of wealth for his work in 1462 by his conquest. Moving on, one of his brothers was captured by the great knight of Randos. He was rescued by his brother Ulrich, but the other was killed, and the other two brothers became privateers themselves, eventually becoming one of the most successful pirates in history of that era. They raided across the Mediterranean Sea, capturing dozens of ships, mostly fishing ships, as far away from England as possible. Now what I'm going to tell you right now is the most ironic thing in pirates. Ulrich lost his arm and replaced it with a silver prosthetic arm because it got blown off by a cannonball. Now the only thing they're missing is the eye patch. But moving on, he got blown off during the battle between the Spanish, as the immigrations of the Muslims who fled to Algeria due to the immense persecution of the Spanish in their efforts to dominate the western Mediterranean borders, which then disturbed the old balance in the region. So the brothers headed to sea towards the western Mediterranean and began to work as the numbers of ships increased. They travelled to a great island called Tunisia, where they started to trade, and once they hold of many goods, they made their main headquarters there, which gave them an upper hand of raids to Italy borders. Moreover, Ulrich was proclaimed Sultan of Algeria due to his immense efforts, and the pirates' brothers became rulers, leading Ulrich to be killed when fighting against the Spanish in 1517. Kaiser took his title and took his name, Barbarossa, and started to get help from the Ottoman Empire, as the established headquarters in North Africa laid until the great French conquest of Algeria 300 years later. Barbarossa became the great ruler between 1520 and 1529. His enemies were afraid to encounter his wrath, as he gained the Turkish trust in the Mediterranean Sea, thus Turks entering into his service, where they built an artillery shop for naval cannons, and they laid in Algeria. Barbarossa started to threaten the Spanish coast, with his vast amount of navy fleet increasing day by day for a number of 37 ships. Muslims who were the subject to various pressures from all angles, as I mentioned before, they were persecuted, leading them to flee to the African coast on Turkish ships. They reached around 70,000 Muslims, and by this estimate, this made Algeria become rich and famous to this day. Barbarossa fame spread throughout the Muslim world, as well as in history in general. Because of this, as time passed, Sultan Suleiman the Magnificent heard about this and his accomplishments. He was full of joy and invited him over dinner, thus making him the chief of the Ottoman fleet. And as his ranks was pushed, his command over ships increased by over 150 galleons, and started with a stable and strong foundation of campaigns all over the Mediterranean Sea. Furthermore, he was invited in 1533 to the King Francis I of France as an emissary, and he even gave the king a lion, and he is well known as the Lion of Barbarossa. This led to a friendship of France and the Ottoman Empire for 3 centuries. After reconquering headquarters held by the Greeks, this gave the Italian coast an extreme amount of panic, as he also threatened the Pope in Rome. These raids were much bigger as you think, as it was a diversion to distract Barbarossa from his main objective, which was Tunis, and it was a success. In 1434, and the following year, Charles V sent a mighty military expedition. This of course led to Tunis to be recaptured after a bloody week-long siege. This was because the Holy Roman Empire Charles V tried to bribe Kaiser or Barbarossa, whatever you choose, to go against and destroy the deal with the Ottomans, as the deal was to proclaim the Algeria border to the Ottomans and under the Islamic rule. Barbarossa responded by beheading his messenger. Moving on, Suleiman besieged Vienna, and Barbarossa captured islands of the Mediterranean Sea. Moving on, the Pope combined a Holy League of Spain, Republican of Venice, Knights of Malta to destroy the Ottoman fleet and to gain Algeria. Barbarossa led an Ottoman fleet against the Holy League in the Aegean Sea in 1538, September the 28th. Despite being outnumbered by 3-2, he won the naval battle by sinking 10 ships and capturing 36 more. if my research is accurate. However, there are many other sources that disprove what I said, so please don't take this to account. In 1443, Barbarossa finally retired and spent his life in Istanbul, where the new capital of the Ottoman Empire laid after 1453. He spent his last few years of his life creating memoirs and writing them down, thus giving us the noble history. He died in 4th of July 1456, and he was buried in Istanbul in the Barbaros Tebessee, the mausoleum of Barbarossa, and many other noble pirates. It still stands today in the modern district of the European Bank of Bosphorus. For many years, no Turkish ship left Istanbul without making an honourable salute to the graveyard of these noble people. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed and learnt something new around here. If you have, please leave a like, comment below, and subscribe if you're new around here. I shall see you next time. For every empire has a beginning, forged to blood, steel, fortune, and conquest. As one empire to rise, another must fall.